Hi, thank you so much. It's so good to be back. It is mid-August, and for those of you that are watching live on Sunday or any other time, it's a pleasure to be here with you. The beauty of the digital world that we live in is that energy can transmit through the beautiful technology that we have. So our goal here today is to continue to awaken ourselves in a sacred manner and to have not just the words come through, but any divine energies that come through me to come through from me to you and land in any way that's best. So before I start today, I'd like all of you that are watching and participating with me to just take a moment, take a deep breath, center yourself, close your eyes, and allow me to start with just a quick prayer that whatever comes through me today come through in the words that each and every one of you need in the way that you need it. May the blessings come through for all of us, only in what's in our highest good, what's best for us as we walk on this journey together in this life. May all the ancestors protect all four corners and protect those, each and every one of us in our families. It is good for us to be here today. Aho. So gently come back. And I've been guided and given the task today of talking about unraveling emotional trauma. What does that mean? I mean, seriously, we've been living in so much trauma. So what is trauma? We think of trauma in terms of huge experiences, like the war or a beating or mugging, a car accident, a rape. Those are definitely traumas. Those are acute traumas. But most of us live in a chronic trauma state. So we can have chronic and acute traumas. Chronic traumas are anything that the physical and emotional body experiences toxic, experiences negative, that jolt us in a certain kind of way. Many of us have both acute and chronic traumas as we move through life. Very few people, if any, actually, I would say probably no one, maybe the most enlightened masters and the holy people that come. But the rest of us, we can't escape trauma. We've just lived it for the last 18 months. And prior to that, we were living it in a huge political upheaval in all kinds of ways. And then we were masked and we were locked down, and it was different for everybody. Domestic abuse increased, alcohol sales, I think, went up like 58% in a week. People didn't know what to do with themselves. Some people got really creative. Some people suffered economically, all kinds of things. But regardless of what we did with it, we were all hit with the trauma of the experience because it was worldwide. And it was constant, this news of people dying, and you can travel, you can't travel, you have to stay home. Crazy. Somebody backed into my car a couple of weeks ago. I'm dealing with the insurance, and the collision people call me, and the woman said, she said, I can't get you in to even look at your car for 2 months. I said, what do you mean? She told me that she'd been doing this work for 20 years and has never experienced so many car accidents. Like, that just really took me back. She said, I don't know what's happening. This is our conversation. She's like, I don't know what's happening. But every day we're being inundated with more cars than we know what to do with. So that's just kind of this experience. Everything just feels a little out of whack. So regardless of our life up until COVID, how much trauma we had, we've all experienced the same trauma in our own way. So just a quick recap. Trauma is anything that our body and our emotional body, physical body, spiritual body experiences with some kind of a jolt and experiences as a negative. So what happens with chronic trauma is then we have this expectation. So we are wired from an evolutionary biological place, whether we're creationists or evolutionists doesn't matter. What matters is we are created in such a way for survival of the fittest. So our bodies, our brain, body, our gut will hold trauma, negative experiences in every tissue. Why? to save us, protect us in the future. We don't hold happy memories that way yet. Maybe we'll evolve into that. But we don't hold those happy memories, but that's why there's a reason for it. So I have found that many times in the work that I do, whether whichever door I step in as a psychologist, a scientist, a naturopath, a medicine person, a spiritual person, doesn't matter which door, but what I have found is that those that have had lots of chronic traumas or an acute trauma or both tend to shame and blame themselves. And that too is wired in evolutionarily. And that's what we're going to try to tease apart today. When we feel bad or when we respond quickly and we go into this visceral response, we get angry, we get shamed, we get hurt. So we either blame outside whatever triggered it, or we shame ourselves for our experience. Maybe we reacted bigger than the situation required. But a lot of shame and blame become a part of that. So I want to talk a little bit about how I've come to truly believe that when we understand the hard wiring of our body, that it can release some of that shame and blame. Because trauma, by definition, creates those experiences. It gives us a lot of anxiety. We have quick impulses around certain things, a certain tone, somebody talking to us a certain way, road rage, we do different things with it. We eat, drink too much, maybe, distract with all kinds of things, especially, with technology, it's easy to always be scrolling. Whatever it takes to not feel what we're feeling. But years of that accumulate and eventually hurt us physically and emotionally. So to back up, let's talk a little bit about the science so that we can bring spirit back in today. We hear often when we think about spirit, spirituality, the universe, Buddha and the lotus blossom is just such an image, regardless of which faith we are. And that is this crown chakra right here. So our brain, is wired to hold trauma to protect us, right? And the anxiety it creates is a warning. It's a doorbell saying, hey, pay attention. But let's talk about that a minute. So our third eye, which we always hear about, many of you that are watching this, I'm sure you know, but just a quick moment. Our third eye that lives straight back from here, is in the middle of our brain. So we have our pituitary gland, straight back, a little lower, and a little behind is the pineal gland. When that awakens, we have transcendental moments, we have transformative experiences, we have clarity. The past no longer exists, and all that's there is what's true, and a sense of oneness with the world, a sense of understanding our purpose and meaning of being here, and of course always that huge love, because ultimately that's what we are. So that's right there, okay? Sitting right on top of that like a bubble is the limbic system. The limbic system is what's called the emotional brain. Now, we've known this now for maybe 20 years or more. So the emotional brain sits on top of that. And in there is this little guy called the amygdala. I remember when that was first discovered, it was a huge discovery, because it made all the difference in how we healed, how we transformed our lives. So when we have any experience, whether it's smell, a tone, a visual, somebody talks to us a certain way, whatever, something happens, and we respond with anxiety or anger or fear, and our body reacts. Think about it. That third eye, our emotional brain, the place that holds all of our trauma, sits at the very top of our central nervous system. Our central nervous system and our tissues, which are really our subconscious, are 98% of our functioning. This part of our brain, our knowledge, our knowing, like I should know better, is 2 to 3%. So we have an experience, bam, this wakes up, goes right down our nervous system in an instant. And we have thoughts, we say things like, here we go again, I knew it would never get better, or me, and on and on. And we all have some variation of that. I find when we truly understand that, we can kind of get off our back a little. It's there, and it's there for a purpose, and that's what happens. Okay, so that's the hardwire. So if our computer goes off or acts up or whatever, sure, we get mad at it. Of course, we get mad. But we also know it's just being a machine. Well, that's true for us too. When we know we're just being this beautiful biological, physiological being wired for protection, when we can lay off ourselves just a moment, then the opportunity for healing arises. And that's a beautiful thing. Okay, so just take a moment. Our body, our central nervous system, boom, reacts. We often get mad. So just a sidestep. Some of us, or some of you listening, might say, well, I don't really have any of those experiences, traumas, other than, what we've experienced recently together. But we do, because our DNA is ancestral. At least 7 generations of experiences are living in us. So not only do we have our own lifetime, if you will, traumas and experiences, we have whatever is unfinished in our ancestral gene pool living within us too. Okay, that's just a whole lot, right? That's just a whole lot. What does it mean for us? Well, many spiritual people, mystics and so on, have said since the beginning of time that we are here in this paradoxical kind of way to heal these traumas, to transform them, to reach a state of enlightenment, to reach a state closer to God, to be one with God, to have the fire ignite in our hearts. But it seems opposite. Well, why is that? Because as we are hurt, as we suffer, as we languish, as things happen, we can discover, first and foremost, inside of ourselves, an appreciation that we're here. Was that Elton John song, I'm still standing kind of thing? Okay, just dated myself. We're here. We are here because we want to have at some level, or we are designed to have, if you will, what is it like to be both sides of the coin? What is it like to struggle through all of this adversity and still find our heart, to still find appreciation for self, other? When I have suffered, you have suffered, and we see someone else suffering, if we have done some of our work, none of us get to do all of it, but if we've done some of our work, what happens is compassion grows, understanding grows. I feel that person's pain because I know what that's about, you see. Whether it's the same experience or not becomes irrelevant. I know deep inside of me what pain is. And when I know that, my heart just bursts open. I don't know if you guys can feel as you're listening, this bursting open of the heart. That's one of the main reasons we're here. Because no matter what comes at us, we have inside of us the ability to not just survive it, we have inside of us the ability to transform it into something beautiful and pure love. I know that sounds a little cliche. What happens with pure love? Well, first of all, let's go back to science, the immune system. Now, we're very aware of the immune system in the last year and a half, right? The immune system gets weakened through emotional and physical stressors, traumas. The ruminating that we do, here we go again, it happened again, oh my God, all of those things, we are weakened. Now, when we know not to shame and blame ourselves for that, when we understand the brain is holding that because it thinks it's protecting us, then what we can do, I'm going to give you some things to do here in a minute. Then what we can do is say, oh, I can do this. I can be in such appreciation that it didn't really get me. I matter. Everyone I love matters. People matter. Then what we can do is turn that shame and blame into understanding, appreciation, and caring. The moment that changes, our sense of pain, our experience of our physical pain diminishes, research says by 40 to 60%. Our immune system starts strengthening. Instead of ruminating, we're thinking about things that are good. Now remember, Our brain doesn't hold what's good. So we have to actively, consciously work on paying attention to that. There used to be the gratitude journal. All of those things, they work. But we don't stay in it enough. Why? Because our brain pulls us back. Danger, 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 danger. We have to protect the physical being. That seems to be this human phenomenon of, in that struggle, growth happens. Like becoming a butterfly, the lobster. I don't even know if this is 100% true, but I've heard that when the lobster is growing and the shell stays on that lobster, it starts becoming really painful. Makes sense, because the shell doesn't move. So the lobster goes off in a corner and suffers intense pain, breaks off the shell, and a new shell grows. That is our goal. That's like releasing the trauma and bringing on a newer shell that's more peaceful, it's more clear. That clarity. So if we can quiet that, right? So not only does our immune system get stronger, our sense of pain diminishes. Now what happens? We have more energy to do what we desire. So when we circle that science back and come back to spirit and energy, the crown chakra is above the third eye. It's no accident that our amygdala, our pain, our trauma holder, our protector, Mr. Protector, is sitting not between the third eye and our crown chakra. Think about that. It's rather beautiful. So in the releasing and removing those things, our third eye opens more, our crown chakra opens. So what does that mean? Our crown chakra right here, the lotus blossom, it is our connector. The indigenous people say Father Sky and Mother Earth. It is our connector to that which is greater. So when there's less clutter going on, we have more clarity, we're more connected. That immediately opens our heart and our physical body. Healthier, younger, stronger. It's really a beautiful thing. Now, when we're in a trauma, when we've been triggered, when our anxiety is going, what do we do? So the first thing we want to understand is, this is how we're wired. It's not going to be any other way until we consciously understand that and lay off the shame and blame. That goes a long way. The other piece is appreciation. Science is now showing, brain science is now showing, that if we can appreciate not only what we've suffered or what's just happened, but if we can appreciate the pain, acknowledge it, honor it. It's painful, it hurts. Sickness hurts, aging hurts, emotional traumas hurt, betrayal, all of these things that we all suffer some way. The science shows that when we can appreciate and honor that, not get lost in it, right? But when we can honor it and appreciate it, it starts to diminish because we want to change the way the brain gets wired. When it keeps repeating itself, gets thicker and thicker train tracks. When we do something different, when we move into appreciation, then what happens is a quieting. Those neurochemicals kind of sit back and go, what? And they start firing in a different way. What they're doing is they're opening up the cerebellum. Back here, what's called, the primitive brain, right here in your brainstem. Now think about it. This goes directly into the central nervous system, but this area is closer, right? So that's our cerebellum. The mystics say, and now the science is starting to back it up, that the cerebellum is where the divine enters. So when we remember that up here spinning, trying to protect us, that the bigger protection has been from the beginning of time, right here. All we have to do, bam, is put our attention to the back of our brain. And go ahead, do it. Oh, when we do that, there's a quiet. So the cerebellum, celebration, there you go. The celebration of the cerebellum is where spirit comes in, where our soul, our higher self, our best self, that part of us that lives in wisdom, that part of us that's always connected and knowing, that intuition. Sure, it's in the gut. We know that. We know that our gut is the second brain. Some people are saying it's the first brain, because a lot of those chemicals that are spinning around in that amygdala are also in our gut. Because our body, all of the cells in our tissue are directly intertwined and alive, living with our entire experience and the experience of our ancestors. Each generation has the opportunity to shed some of that, clear some of that, so that this is brighter, this is more awake, the third eye is more clear. Those are the kinds of things that we've been reading about and talking about. But what that does is immediately not only quiets us, but it empowers us. We get to stand in the strength of celebrating this, whether we like how we look in the mirror or not. That's a difference. It's a whole different topic. But to celebrate and appreciate that, yes, there are all of these things that we struggle with, and yet here I am. And I'm here because my ancestors did all of this work. There's an incredible amount of resilience that's built into me. And if I can appreciate that, just that, I could give you 20 different techniques. And when we do our meditation, there will be more. But the biggest thing is appreciating that that trauma is real and it's there to protect me, and I don't have to let it rule me. I'm not going to quote this correctly, but Einstein said something about how the mind is fantastic, but the mind will not be the master of me. I need to be the master of my mind. And that place, that switch from this biological stuckness and protection survival human organism with all of these senses that we have the ability to experience all of this pleasure. Of course, the other side of that coin is experience so much pain. When we start mastering our mind in appreciation, not battle, never battle, because we'll lose every time, but in appreciation of, yeah, this is what's going on, and I am in appreciation of all of this, because when I am, the strength will surge up and it can be a little quieter. So when we release one little bit, so if I'm triggered with something and I historically on a scale of 1 to 10 hit like an 8, bam, if I can get that down to a 5 or 6, I win. I have a little brand niece. She's always like playing little games with me. And she's like, I win. And I love that because we want to, I win. So from an 8 to a 6, well, now it's at a 6. 6 to a 4, we win. And it's okay to be triggered. It's important to forgive, accept, appreciate in ourselves and in others. It's such an important thing, you know? When we do that, most of the major religions, indigenous and otherwise, speak to that release allows our ancestors to go further into the light. But it absolutely then changes that DNA code, and our progeny and theirs are released from that pattern. Because when you look at our families, a lot of these patterns are the same. We marry similar people, so on and so forth. But when we can go from an 8 to a 6, a 6 to a 4 on one thing, we can change that. And our children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren, no longer have to do that piece. They're closer to a more peaceful, more compassionate, more kind kind of life. Our job, as we walk sacredly, is to be first and foremost sacred with ourselves. All of this is purposeful. We're here purposefully. We've lived a huge mass stressor together, and it's still going on, right? Floods, fires, all kinds of things, new variants. When we stand in our own appreciation, when we stand in the knowing that this and the pains and the wounds and the things that spin in our mind are really trying to help us. Knocking on the door, trying to let us know, hey, don't forget about me. And if we can open the door and say, hey, thanks for keeping me safe, I remember. But we don't have to hold that anymore because we're here now. And if somebody pushes that button, I'm going to be aware. Maybe not immediately. The more I practice this, the more aware I become, the more in control I become, the more kind to self I become, the kinder to others I become. And that's exponential. That doesn't just go in our gene pool, it's exponential. And there's no better time than practicing that as there is today. So, and it's good for us to be here. I thank you. Oh. Okay, so let's take this entire experience and put it into our being, our vibration, our cells, our tissues, our energy field, so that by the time we're finished, it's become more one with you. So if you close your eyes, if you're laying down, wonderful. If you're sitting, please plant your feet on the floor, ground, close your eyes. Think about today, think about all that you've heard. Now, put your attention between your eyebrows. Now, when I do these meditations, I call on the ancestors to come in and help with the vibration and the potency. So you'll start to feel pressure somewhere between your eyebrows, or something to let you know it's coming. All right. Now, it's your third eye. Take your energy deep inside of that into the middle of your brain. You're going to find your pineal gland. Now you're going to start imagining a little bit of fire, but not like steaming hot, just a little fire in your third eye. It's going to burn off some of that residue. As it's burning off, it starts filling your entire brain with light. And you notice immediately, again, some pressure at the top of your head, your crown chakra. Just sit there with this light in your brain. Just feel how good that feels. And now, bring the light into your left nostril. Gently bring that light into the right side of your brain with the intention of awakening, balancing, clearing. Now we're going to do that with a gentle breath into your left nostril, to the right side of your brain. Release. One more time. Left nostril, right side of the brain. Now, your right nostril to the left side of your brain with the intention of awakening, balancing, and clearing. Again, right nostril, left side of your brain. You're going to notice your body is just relaxing as we're doing this. One more time. Right nostril, left side of your brain. Good. Now we're going to take a deep breath in, and that light's going to go all the way back to the cerebellum. And you're going to feel from the outside coming into your cerebellum also light, meeting back there in the middle in your brainstem. And then you're just going to feel some joy, like an old friend that hasn't been acquainted in a while, coming together, meeting each other. Your whole brain is just moving with these blue and purple and yellow firings of neurochemicals. And the back of your brain is just pure white. And then the top of your head's going to open, and that's going to reach all the way up, kind of like a whale hole. That light's just going to go all the way up into the universe. deep inside your heart, whisper, I am free. I am ease. I can appreciate. I can appreciate. Feel how that feels. And say again, either out loud or to yourself, I can appreciate. And feel that light come down your throat into your heart space with the intention of letting go that anything that no longer serves you. Vowing to release the shame and blame from self and be an appreciation of who you are, what you've lived, what you are able to change just by. Sure, do psychology, techniques, sounds, mantras, meditations, always will help. But this technique, what we're doing, the talk that you listen to, in and of itself, is awakening your immune system, reducing inflammation, strengthening your being, because you are in alignment with that. So sit with this for a moment. Feel that light in your brain, in your body. Now spread that light through your whole body and outside your field. When we can remember our divinity, nothing else exists. Hold the divinity, the flame in your heart, in your body. In this moment, you are your most true self. Take a deep breath in and allow that feeling all through your entire body to be. One more breath. Stay in this as long as you desire. If you want to slowly come out, shanti, shanti.